Everybody knows Cirque du Soleil, the thrilling acts, the breathtaking skills in make-believe worlds like Oh, Mystère and Crystal. Cirque was started in Montreal by a group of street performers and grew under the management of Guy La Liberté. But when COVID hit, Cirque du Soleil went broke. 6,000 workers were laid off, 44 shows simply shut down. It went into bankruptcy. The private equity firm TPG lost all its money and its stake in the show. But Cirque survived and it's now regrowing. But this time it's doing things differently. And that's the responsibility of Chief Growth Officer Nickole Tara, who I caught up with this week. Nickole, thanks for your time. Everybody knows Cirque du Soleil. Everybody understands the brand, the theatrics of it, the risk in it. But the fact is the risk was actually that it would not exist after COVID. It nearly died, didn't it?
It was a truly difficult time for the industry, particularly Cirque. We went through, not dissimilar from a lot of live entertainment companies, but I would say particular to Cirque du Soleil, we had a total shutdown. And we were reduced, 5,000 to 150 employees in the course of 2 weeks, which is something, of course, no one could have seen coming. But I think coming out of that period and having, not too long, but enough time to recover and to quickly look back, I think it's put us in a very unique position to learn.
But even at that time, the business had a lot of debt. $1 billion worth of revenue just disappeared. There were no shows. You had to lay off all of these highly creative staff. I mean, that's a pretty tough time for that business. And then it's recovered. That's even more astonishing in some ways.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the makeup of the business made it very susceptible to conditions that we experienced in 2020. But frankly, I don't blame them, right? Who would have ever predicted a total shutdown of the world, let alone live entertainment? So I think we were put in a position to react to that. And I think what most notably the leadership in the new ownership team at the time made the strategic decision to do was to learn from that. And when they rebuild, to rebuild purposefully so that we could be a different iteration, perhaps an improved iteration of ourselves in the future.
So when you say to rebuild purposefully, what does that mean? Because quite clearly, the history of Cirque is all about the artists. It's about the circus performers. The heart of it is the show. How can you more purposefully build a brilliant circus than it already was? Yeah,
it's a great question. I think the heart of Cirque du Soleil, and we spent a lot of time thinking about this over the last year, is really a beacon of creativity, right? It manifests itself on a live stage, and of course, artisans and artists and technicians are paramount to that spectacular outcome. But it's really reflective of an entire ethos of creative thought, of thinking about the art of the possible, of thinking about a new way to attempt something that's not been thought of before, that can wow somebody. And so when we really boiled it down, we were like, well, that's our commodity. Our commodity is this way of thinking, not necessarily the physicality of how it's traditionally manifest.
Okay, so therefore you had to look at really your digital presence. And this is where it seems as though it's going. It was the brand that was the core. It's the brand that actually made it recover. It's the brand and the extension of that you seem to have found as a result of the lockdown and what you went through during that period of coronavirus.
Yeah, absolutely. I think when we talked to our customers at the beginning of this year to really learn about what they wanted from us, we were really stunned to learn about how they thought about Cirque du Soleil. I think the tradition is that we've been doing this for nearly 40 years on a live stage environment. And so from a brand permissions perspective, we would be expected to be a catalyst for the live stage. And I think what we found is that more than 80% of our customers gave us permission in cultural arts. And so to them, that meant much more than the stage. And so our permission to be able to do things, whether it's digitally or in new formats, new channels, new community development, it was really around how we catalyzed our fans and came to them where they were.
So did that mean changing the mindset of it so that the show was at the heart of the business and therefore the talent, the performers were at the heart of the business, to suddenly saying, well, hang on, in a new world, we can take this virtually into anybody's living room. We can extend this into gaming, we can extend this into live performance at home.
Yeah, absolutely. World creation is something that's been paramount to Cirque since 1984, right? Guy famously created these worlds that you're transported into, and for 90 minutes, you're living in this fantasy of thought that's just beyond anything you could have dreamt, right? And I think our ability to not just take the world that plays out on stage, but take characters out of those specific orientations and go deeper into, well, where did they come from? And what was going on in their background? And how did they end up here? And where are they going in the future? And create more content out of that, create more exploration, perhaps more publishing, in a way to deepen those relationships between what people see on the stage ultimately, which, make no mistake, we still want them to see things live on the stage. We just want to be able to offer a more robust set of experiences outside of that live environment.
So culturally, as an organisation, given that the performer was at the very core and the essence of the business pre the pandemic, and you come out and create new digital assets, games, whatever it might be, with Cirque du Soleil's brand on it, how does that go down with the actual performers themselves?
Well, it's a great question. Performers have been, I was introduced last October. We have a gathering internally where we meet with our employees globally. We did one in Montreal, one in Las Vegas. And our Las Vegas forum, when my role was announced to all of our artists and technicians, I was very embraced, because many of them want to have connectivity outside of the live stage, right? They want to have entertainment style pursuits. They want to be known for things. They want to have their personas both real and character driven in all kinds of different circumstances. And so they were really craving it. And so we've been fortunate. My team has been really embraced within the organization, particularly the artist community, who I think has been really gracious in thinking about some of the new ideas and helping us get some projects off the ground.
But the reality is, this means that Cirque as a business can earn when I'm not coming to your show. Yeah. That's the key here, isn't it? Because going into the pandemic, it was all about bums on seats. Didn't matter whether you had 6 shows in Vegas, whether you had shows all around the world. The logistics of that are very difficult. But now, if you've got an extension of the brand and I can enjoy it wherever I am, and you're not in town at that time, it means you're still earning.
Absolutely. It's interesting because when I came here, one of the conundrums everyone was thinking about is how we were going to strengthen show IP brands, right? So the 52 brands that we've created over our 40 years, the data will say that everyone can say what Cirque du Soleil is, but there's a big drop off in what show you've seen or, outside of a few marquee shows. And when I got here, it was like, we've got to figure that out. And ultimately what we decided was that was the power. The power is that Cirque du Soleil is this force of a brand that's globally known, recognized, and revered. And that from a net promoter perspective, we're up with the ranks of Apple and Google. I mean, we're playing in a class that I don't know, we certainly didn't design for it specifically, but we've arrived. And so a lot of the work that we're executing right now is really at that brand level.
But did this also mean that, having come from effectively a cottage industry once upon a time, with the artisans there, that you had to change the very nature and the structure of the business to really embrace this new digital age?
Well, absolutely, but arguably, in 1984, they invented an entire genre of artistic entertainment that never existed previous. So I actually feel like it's our role in society to be that innovation catalyst. What is the next thing, right? How are we going to reach people? What's the newest art form? And that can be iterations of what we've done quite successfully, but I think more interestingly, it could be new, and we can own that kind of part in society.
So notwithstanding the fact that we've got AI coming, that'll all be a key part of where you go to in the future. Do you think there is still a place for the face-to-face shows in the future when I can enjoy your product anywhere, anytime?
Oh, absolutely. Well, I subscribe, and Cirque subscribes to a philosophy that would actually engage and celebrate AI as a tool, a creative engine, a perpetuator of thought. It makes many things we do in the creation process more efficient, more interesting, more imaginative. But I think overall, it's going to ultimately, AI as a society, will galvanize the live in real person experiences. It will make them perhaps that much more special. I mean, it's no mistake that when we were all locked in our homes for a period of time, when we were offered the opportunity to leave and enter and re-enter live entertainment, that everyone came out in droves globally. Right, it wasn't like on par with 2019. It blew away 2019. 2022 for most global entertainment companies was the best year on record, us included. So I think it was kind of a small case study in replicating things digitally is certainly heightening the experience or perhaps expanding it, but it's in no way ever going to replace it.
I'll tell you what, Nickole, Tara, great to have a chat to you today. Many thanks for your time.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.